GBviews at gbnews.com. Get those coming in. Look, we're going to go to France shortly. We're going to be talking about the fact that Sue Gray has as well just been cleared to go and work for Keir Starmer. Is it actually time now for a general election? Is Rishi Sunak going to biff Suella Braverman? Loads on the agenda. But we are going on with this madness that's taking place, the madness in the British military. As I've been discussing, the head of the RAF has been made to apologise after that inquiry found that essentially they had discriminated against white men. And that officer as well was forced to step aside in the army because he just thinks that women are women and men can't be women. I mean, where to start? Well, with us now is combat veteran, friend of the channel, friend of the show. It's the wonderful Trevor Cole. Trevor, thank you very, very much. What do you make of the fact that the RAF has been discriminating against white men?
Well, Patrick, first of all, thank you and the team at GB News for inviting me on again. I've looked into this and clearly it's quite strange what's going on in the armed forces, but I would like to point out that the military are getting orders, and the orders aren't coming from the military. It's coming from the civil service. It's those in the civil service that are controlling our generals and our armies and our Air Force and Navy, and they are putting pressure on those with high ranks to actually put out this equality and diversity stuff. So I've just noticed that yes, the Air Chief Marshal has been made to apologise, but he's now taken over the other Air Chief Marshal, Sir Mike Wixton, who's been made to step aside after, under his watch, he actually overseen this not employ white male pilots. So we've now seen this guy step aside. The senior people in the RAF who overseen this here stupid thing to do are not going to be punished. I mean, they just get their pensions and they move along and a new Air Chief Marshal comes about. But there's another thing happening at the minute, and that is that Tim Farrell, who's the National Security Advisor, oversees the civil servants. Now, do you not think at a time when we are meant to be in a proxy war against Russia and the threat against our country is going from substantial to possibly severe in the next few days, having found out those plans in Afghanistan, what we aren't seeing is we aren't seeing things move into a common sense realm, and it doesn't make sense, the fact that we are suppressing our armed forces and making them woke. The civil servants seem to be in charge of the army, and the civil servants are making things worse.
That's a really key point, that, Trevor. It's a really key point, because that's one of the things I was scratching my head trying to figure out where on earth all of this has come from. And I held a faint candle up of hope that someone who was really a proper old-fashioned military man would not genuinely be sitting there around a table going, look, this place, this has got to look like the most diverse part of the world that you've ever seen. And I wonder, well, is it coming from our civil service? And if it is, where on earth do they get off this lot? Because, let's be honest, it won't be civil servants on the picking up the rifles and firing at the enemy, will it, if it all goes to pot?
Well, Patrick, exactly. Right now, Putin's probably sitting there with popcorn, watching the fact that our civilian staff are making a mockery of our armed forces. Our armed forces, in fact, it was only a few days ago with the Chief of Defence Staff, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Chief of Defence Staff, Sir Patrick Saunders, has been made to step down. He's been made to step down because he actually spoke out and said that the British Army is not sustainable and we are a laughingstock. So rather than the MOD back him and get behind him for support because he's trying to implement positive changes, what they did in the civil service, they've sacked him and he's being replaced very shortly. So now anyone in the armed forces that does speak out to try and make our armed forces stronger is being pushed to the side and sacked.
Oh, you can't talk out. This is the other madness of it. Someone there, apparently, according to these reports, someone said, you understand that this is, like, illegal. We can't recruit like this. This is against, like, the law. You can't just actively discriminate. They go, oh, well, you better leave. OK, all right, well, fine. Well, the law doesn't matter then if it means that we're trying to employ more people who are ethnically diverse. Trevor, you've seen frontline combat and a lot of it as well. At any moment during your years of service, you've received the Military Cross, I believe, as well. At any moment during that, did you ever look around at the person next to you and think, gosh, you know what we could really use here now? We could really use a more diverse military.
Well, the thing is, Patrick, we are replacing knowledge, experience on the battlefield. At the senior level, we're replacing that with box-ticking exercises, and we're seeing people get those roles of command with no knowledge or experience of troops in combat, and that's why things are going a little bit haywire. But It doesn't make sense at the minute. We need to get rid of the politicians that are controlling the MOD and the civil service. We need to replace the civil service with the old War Office, which we used to have until Tony Blair changed it. So we need to replace this so-called civil service, civilians in charge of military decisions which are affecting our country and our national security, and bring back the old War Office where we have retired majors, colonels, sergeant majors, RSMs, brigadiers. Get them back doing what they do best and fix our country.
Yeah, and as well, I think your average common man and the woman on the street don't care at all what the ethnic makeup or even, to be honest with you, the gender makeup of the military is, as long as those individuals in question can do the job correctly. We've had enough, haven't we, I think, of like the England football team taking the knee, the leader of the opposition taking the knee. At times the police force are rocking up at pride marches, but they're not going to burglaries at your nan's house. And then all of a sudden now we've got the military as well, who's saying, well, you know what, this has to be a diverse recruitment campaign. Our enemies don't care about this, Trevor. Our enemies are, like you said there, rubbing their hands together with glee that we are now in a situation where people are actively good candidates who are willing to fight and die for this country are being turned away because they are white in a majority white country. I just find it absolutely staggering, really. I mean, what would your message be to anybody who's maybe looking at this now? You know, you're working class white lad who, by the way, is disenfranchised more than a lot of other people. You look at who's underperforming most at schools, working class white boys. Nobody talks about them. People want to set up scholarships for working class white boys to go to private schools or to get into Cambridge or Oxford. You get a massive pushback for that. You can set up scholarships for everybody else. You can't really tend to do it for the working class white lads. What would you say to them if they're looking at this now and thinking, good grief, I wanted to join the military, but I don't really fancy it anymore. It sounds like it's gone woke.
I would say to every single white person in the UK, male, to apply for those roles and then sue the civil service for hundreds of millions of pounds for discrimination and make them go bust. That's what I would say to them, Patrick.
Well, look, Trevor, it's one option, I suppose. Look, thank you very much. I always enjoy you coming on and speaking your mind. And thank you again for everything that you've done